She's known nowadays primarily through her sole flute concertino, but in her heyday she commanded the concert hall and even had a fragrance named after her. I'm the Classical Nerd, and today we're talking about Cécile Chaminade. Cécile Chaminade was born in 1857 and studied music unofficially through her mother because her father believed that music was an improper career for a woman. Her first compositional success came in the ears of her neighbor, Georges Bizet, and the great French operatic master took to calling her "My Little Mozart." He attempted, futilely, to let Chaminade enroll in the Paris Conservatoire instead of simply taking private lessons from conservatoire faculty. She would later pay her respects to Bizet by defending his opera Carmen against unjust attacks by the press. She performed in her local Catholic church and may have even performed for Franz Liszt. She began touring France as a pianist, playing her own works to great acclaim, and critical success followed her after the premiere of a piano and orchestra piece in Belgium. Her entrance into the world of pianism coincided with her father's death, and thus the need for her to be financially independent. And this was secured through her marriage of convenience to a music publisher, which was actually done under the condition that they would live apart. He was much older than her, and after his death, she decided never again to remarry, out of fear that a second potential husband would simply try to control her life and her career. Her pieces were in high enough demand to be published, which had precedent but was still highly unusual. Her popularity as a pianist made it across the Channel to England, where she achieved similar successes as she had done on the continent, including performing for Queen Victoria, who was so taken with her music that she insisted that a Chaminade organ piece be played at her funeral. The melodiousness and gracefulness of her music made her very popular in the United States, where she toured triumphantly beginning in 1908. She found that many of her most popular pieces were already very well known in the United States, due to the fact that many people performed them on their home uprights. She was so well known and her music so highly regarded in the United States that amateur women actually set up music clubs named Chaminade Clubs. In her Carnegie Hall premiere, she very nearly broke the record gross. However, Chaminade as a composer is a different story. While many amateur musicians of her era knew her through her piano pieces, she was never able to achieve lasting fame in any genre that went into large orchestral works, because large orchestral works were considered to be the domain of the exclusively masculine. She was known amongst amateurs for her piano work, sure, but she also wrote orchestrally, and her output as a composer was strong enough in France for her to be the first female composer awarded the Legion of Honor. She was known enough for her attractive melodies and clever turns of musical phrase that she was commissioned by the Paris Conservatoire to write a new piece to be performed by all entrants in their prestigious flute contest. Thus, all flutists competing in the year 1902 had to learn Chaminade's new flute concertino. It was an immediate hit, and nowadays most musicians who know of Chaminade will be flutists familiar with, if not having actually played, her concertino. She was a pioneer in getting her pieces recorded, both on early analog systems and through piano rolls, although this ground to a halt as she helped out as a nurse during World War I. Despite all of her accomplishments, she continued to have to battle the critics for actual acknowledgement, as her bread and butter of short piano pieces and art songs had been typecast as stereotypically feminine. As her age caught up to her, her left foot had to be amputated due to the complications of an ill-advised vegan diet, and her musical activity, not to mention her once wide fame, decreased steadily until her death in 1944. Unlike earlier female composers, Chaminade's music has really yet to break back into the standard concert repertoire, although you still see pieces showing up on occasion. Her music is stylistically similar to the salon pieces composed by many of her contemporaries, but yet her music is distinctive for its breath of fresh air and melodic sweetness. She had a hard time promoting her large orchestral works, and so those pieces are ripe for rediscovery. Her awareness of what she had to overcome, based solely on her sex, was not lost on her, saying, "Women have not been considered a working force in the world, and the work that their sex and conditions impose on them has not been so adjusted as to give them a little fuller scope for the development of their best self. They have been handicapped, and only few, through force of circumstances or inherent strength, have been able to get the better of that handicap.